Welcome to Standing in the Sunlight with Cynthia Rose. We are all on an ever-unfolding unique journey. Join Cynthia Rose as she begins her unique perspective to all that is meaningful. Topics and personalities that support your path, bringing inspiration and passion and heart-centered ways to live a more fulfilling life. A down-to-earth and uplifting sharing of what it means to be spiritual, creative, and living life to the fullest by standing in the sunlight. Born an intuitive medium, Cynthia Rose is also an ordained minister, singer, astrologer, educator, and writer. She has studied the intuitive and healing arts for over 40 years. Rise up and stand in your sunlight now with Cynthia Rose.
Hi, everyone. I can say that volume was really high, so I turned that down. Hopefully you can all still hear me. Excited to be here today. Happy spring. Today we're going to have Lynne Brisdon, professional certified coach, join us. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about her before I bring her on. Lynne blends coaching with spirituality to connect people with their essential purpose to find deeper meaning in all aspects of their lives, professionally and personally. An early fascination with metaphysics led her to embrace the reality that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. Yeah, I agree with that. She shares meditation and healing practices to offer a direct experience of consciousness beyond intellectual understanding. Her coaching conversations offer a practical way to apply self-awareness, to make conscious choices and take inspired actions. And we will share her website towards the end of the show too. She is livinginvision.com. So Lynne, are you there?
I'm here, Cynthia.
And am I too loud or am I okay?
You're just fine in my ears.
Okay. All right. I got a bit of an echo
Sounds
going
good.
on. So, okay. All right. So I'm so happy to have you on the show today. Oh, thank you. Okay. And I'm really happy to have you on the show today to talk about living in vision. And maybe you can tell us what the inspiration was behind living in vision.
I'd love to. And I guess, when I was going through this process of naming my business and, looking at all of what I wanted to bring into it, and, as I know, Cynthia, before ever becoming a coach, I was really deeply into studying the healing arts and making that a very big part of my life. And I wanted to kind of bring the essence of that work into the coaching practice as well. And there's a process, I think, that many different spiritually oriented modalities use. We call it creative visualization, and there's lots of other terms for it. But, in the training that I know you and I did, we also talked about something called mock-ups, where you create the vision of what it is that you'd like to have in your life. And a part of the process is to not just see it in your mind's eye as an image, but to give yourself the feeling, the visceral and sensory experience to as much degree as you can of what it's like to actually have that experience. And so that's what I was wanting to capture in the name. And so it's like living in vision. It's really immersing ourselves in the energetic content of that which we are creating. The law of attraction also, uses, the similar principles. So
Sure. I think, well, that's fantastic. I think somewhere along the line, though, there's been some misunderstandings where, it went along the lines of, well, we just have to mentally see it, and that doesn't always work because our emotions are so powerful. Actually, I wrote a song about this called Standing in the Sunlight. It's named after this show. Just thinking that. so,
well,
so
isn't that
yeah,
something?
yeah. Just kind of went, oh, ding, ding. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
like there is some misunderstandings. Like, well, I'm thinking it, or we've moved beyond the idea that we just have to see it from a mental perspective. Is that part of what you're bringing?
Absolutely. And I said, so, and when we are only thinking about it and seeing it from that mental perspective, what we're doing is we're limiting, I believe, the potency that we have to really step into recognizing what we're creating on a being level. Because what we're seeing mentally is what, the brain is conjuring up. And yes, it might be inspired by our higher self, our spiritual self, but mostly, that thinking content is something that's kind of just rattling around in our head. And whereas we are so much more. And so when we step into this whole being experience of that which I am creating, we're starting to access a whole lot more potency and connection with the divine, connection with, universal consciousness to, put out the order and trust and know and appreciate and have gratitude for that which is coming back to us.
I agree with that. So how is this different from other coaching programs per se?
Well, I can't say that no one else does this. However, the coaching in and of itself tends to deal more in the intellectual and it's in conversation, and so we're dealing very practically, and there may be opportunity to speak about creating at this level, but that's not sort of the main thrust of it. It's really much more on a when I think a lot of it's sort of based on behavioral modification principles. It's not psychology, but you're bringing to awareness the things that you want to shift and change, and then making some commitments to doing things differently. And it's a very effective process, but it does not always bring in that additional awareness of who we are and what we have the potential to create. Mind you, I will say that some of the early coach training that I did spoke a lot about the magnificence of who we are, and I think in the language, one of the things that attracted me to that particular body of work was in their language. In my mind, there was space for all of that to exist, but it wasn't necessarily what was the primary focus. If that makes any sense.
Right. Well, I think that's a fabulous way to coach people, and it kind of brings up something for me. I can remember, years ago, I was visualizing something that I wanted, and it wasn't happening, and I came to understand that I wasn't conscious of all of the desires that I was putting out. And one thing that I was focusing on was really going against 3 or 4 other things that I also wanted. And so it never really came to be. And then what I hear you saying when you're talking about that is really helping people to be conscious of what it is that they're creating.
Yes, yes. And it's from what you're saying there, Cynthia, is also to be, yes, conscious of all of what you're creating, not just the thing that you're putting that focus on, but all of those other things that are kind of running in the background.
Yeah, and there was a time when
And
all those things running in the background definitely weren't. I didn't know what was going on then. And I'm like, oh, that's a big
yeah,
light bulb.
yeah, because a lot of that, that we call it subconscious material, and we kind of wonder, well, why did I react to that in that way, or what was it about something over here that attracted me, and it's, until we kind of really bring it up and examine it, that we recognize that, oh yeah, okay, that's something that's important to me too, or it often comes up when we're getting clear on the thing that we want to visualize, the thing that we want to bring in, and all of the thoughts that want to stand in the way, all of the old tapes, all of the old messages that say, well, who are you to think that? Or, just all of the arguments against what it is we want to create. And that's a big piece of, the coaching process that I like to take people through, is even provoking the things that are standing in the way and creating obstacle, and then bringing them to conscious awareness, and then letting them go, bringing them to resolution. Which goes back to that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was going to go back to that. When I spoke earlier about that what we call the mock-up visualization. One of the steps was create the image, see it, have it, and then start to release and let go of any of those messages and programming and thoughts and concepts that are saying no, that say you can't have this, and just really keeping that focus on letting all those things go, so that you can step more deeply into the having of it.
I was going to say, it sounds like a byproduct of working with you to try and create something practical in people's lives, whether it's building their business or what they're wanting to do, is that you're invoking or empowering them to build their own knowingness stronger. Is that correct?
Oh, I love the way you said that. Yeah. I'm writing that down. I want to use that. Their own knowingness, invoking their own knowingness. Absolutely. And because that's, I think, a lot of the times people who I work with, I mean, they may not even have a clear idea of what it is that they want to create or move toward when we start working together. They just know that their life as it is not working well for them. And, or they say, I want my business to succeed, and things aren't going properly right now. And as we step through things, there's all of these other, this other material that comes up and is there for discussion and therefore to work on, like maybe there are some relationship dynamics that are getting in the way. And so we can talk about some really practical ways to be more effective in our communication, or we can look at some really practical things for that. How do you go about marketing and attracting customers, and so on. As we go through it, people are stepping into a higher level of their own self-awareness and recognizing,
I love that.
the point. Mm-hmm. Where they have been perhaps standing in their own way, or getting in their own way. I've got, an example, I'm working with somebody who, well, we're focused on the business, but, there's this body weight, image, weight, management thing that keeps coming up. And yet every time this person gets even close to getting booked into an exercise class, there's just something that gets in the way and says no. So what's that about? So we can dig deeper into that. And then what are some of those kind of, I'm going to say, and I know you know this language, core pictures, the things that happened in the past that have got such a strong emotional charge that we don't want to do anything close to what might bring that up again. So, I'm talking with somebody, like I'm saying, who diverts or distracts herself every time it gets close to going to an exercise class, and then recognizes as we delve into that, oh my goodness, there was this time back when she was a teenager that she was inappropriately, let's say, approached because of how good she looked, and that was, it was a traumatic event, and so there's this equation with I look good, therefore someone is going to make inappropriate advances to me.
Oh, I had to work through that.
I'm just gonna. Did you? Yeah.
Yeah, I went through that, and my weight has gone up and down and up and down, and that was one of the things came up for me when I started singing publicly. The shyness of that, and having people approach you from a sexual perspective as opposed to the music. I was very naive, and then those brought back uncomfortable memories that I had to work through and say, wait a minute, I don't have to. They were pictures. I remember going through and releasing the pictures. It's almost like when we talk about pictures, to me, if you look at the extreme where people have, PTSD, which is a medical condition on the extreme, we also have those of us that have these sort of extreme pictures that hold us back, although we've pushed it so far back. Oh, there's our little cue. Hold on, we'll be back with Lynne Brisdon. We'll see you in just a couple of minutes.
Your conscious lifestyle on steroids. OMTimes Radio. IOM-FM.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Connect at omtimes.com. OMTimes, creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes Magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers, pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Okay, we're back with Lynne Brisdon. Where were we? We were right in the middle of that. I lost track of time there. What we were talking about the powerful pictures, and from one extreme to another that we all have these, and we're just not aware of them sometimes.
Yeah, and those pictures, memory banks. We call them pictures. And what's fascinating is there's now neuroscience that, and I don't have the terminology in my brain, but essentially shows us that there are networks and kind of nodes or interconnections in our neural networks where a lot of connecting ideas come together. It's sort of how those pictures work, and there's so much energetic charge in kind of keeping that network intact from a very protective standpoint. We're really wired to protect ourselves. There's that, people talk about the negativity bias that we have to preserve ourselves. It's a survival thing, and yet those are not always serving us when we want to move forward and do something new and different in our life, or step out of an old pattern that's no longer really working for us. So these techniques of, what we learned as blowing a picture, releasing the emotional charge out of that, compacted neural memory, or, some of the other processes are very similar, just like sitting with the visceral feeling that gets generated when we provoke that memory, so that we can bring it to completion and let it go. Helps us to actually reform our memory patterns, and then give us access to new ways of seeing things, new perspectives, new ways of feeling about things, and then we're more equipped and a lot less afraid, or much less afraid, to move on and try these new things, to experiment with doing things differently, so that we can get a different result.
Yeah, and I love that science is catching up, that energy is real, because I can remember back in the 70s, and we were doing visualizations. Maybe it wasn't as clearly defined as we're getting to now, but that was hocus pocus, and what was that? And I've practiced that since then, and visioning something. I just and mistakenly, I thought, well, I don't know how to vision all this, so I'm going to feel it. And so I would create those feelings, and then I would just sort of say, okay, it looks like whatever it needs to look like, because I come from feeling, and then I would let that go. And the results are amazing. Well, I didn't know that I'd kind of fallen into that naturally with the feelings, and I'm so dominated in my life by feeling my way through life that was a plus on that end, and maybe a minus on the end, that feeling things a little too much when maybe that was highlighting a picture. So yeah. So, but I mean, that's another conversation, but, or maybe it is after, but the whole idea of bringing energy into practical, like realizing a thought is energy, a feeling that we're having is energy, and energy gets trapped in the body.
Oh, yeah, it certainly does. It certainly does. You probably had an experience if you're, having even body work or sort of, massage or something, and they hit a sore point, and there's all these floods of memory that come up. You've been holding it, storing it there.
Yeah, I love that. And Candace, I just want to say, Candace Pert, award-winning scientist who's now on the other side, she did work on this where she identified, and I remember seeing her talk about the polypeptide chains of energy throughout the body, and thinking, oh, that makes sense that's possible. And in a sense, you're working with people to become aware of and release these on a practical level. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. And I remember seeing Candace Pert in What the Bleep Do We Know? I just loved that movie. And now, just in this what used to be metaphysical, I mean, outside of the known physical, is now known. It is now science. And so, yes, we're, working very much in, through the conversations, we start to reveal the energetic patterns that want to be shifted and changed. And we can do those shifts and changes, continuing on just to reflect on and do it in conversation, or through a coaching conversation, we may say, well, let's just put a focus on this and do a clearing practice, or maybe there's a new body stance that goes along with this new image that you have for yourself. This is the whole lexicon of different ways and techniques to be there with somebody, walk alongside of them, support them in making the internal shifts that they want to make that will then result in the external changes in their lives.
So these are some of the things that someone might expect to experience while working with you. So say I come to you and I say, I want to have a successful business. Does it matter if I know what I want to do, or like maybe I know what I want to do in the business, or my business not going so well, or maybe I don't know, but I want to find the right niche and live from a place of passion? You work with people both on those ends?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's like we're going to start with where you're at. Absolutely. And so if the vision is not clear yet and it's nebulous, let's put a focus there on getting that more clearly articulated. If it's, I know exactly where I'm going, but there's all these obstacles in the way that are keeping me from getting there, well then let's just keep our eye on the vision and start plowing through, resolving, deconstructing some of the belief systems and obstacles that you've got that are keeping you from getting there. Like I'll give you an example. I'll speak from my own experience, and one of the things I know that as much as I have the capacity to envision and stand and be in the vision of my potential future, I also have a very strong analytical capacity. I mean, I have a major coaching assignment where I work with business startups, and so I'm looking at cash flow projections and stuff. It's pretty analytical stuff, and so sometimes I can get caught there, and that analytical part of me gets very practical on what's the most likely potential for the future, and it's not always pretty. There's a negative, that negativity bias can kick in, and I can look at this current situation and go, well, this sucks, and how is it ever going to change? And forget that I'm being just as creative with those thoughts and that way of being, projecting a negative outcome on the future, as I can be with saying, wait a doggone minute here. Let's just do a retake on those thoughts. Let's just put a focus on, I have no idea at this current moment about whether things are going to go one way or the other. There's 360 degrees of possibility. How about let's just step back and look at what it is that I do want, and get into the excitement and the emotional.
And I know you've had people start up their businesses and be successful, but I don't know, I think in order to find out which thoughts have more power, maybe we have to look at everything that's on the buffet, that what we might term the positive or the negative, or look at everything and find out which one has more draw in order to put the power where it needs to be, right?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And with that, if I keep getting, a result that I didn't want, well, where's my power been? What have I been projecting? It's
Right.
as simple as, I don't want to, reach out and talk to people at a networking function because, nobody's really all that interested. What do they care? If I'm running around with that, this is a real simple example, running around with that thought in my mind, it's not going to be very helpful. If I go, today I'm going to meet somebody and have an interesting conversation about a meaningful conversation about what's going on in their life, and maybe there's something we can do together. It's a completely different energy.
Yeah, and it's very practical. I know for myself, in my work as a medium, because my mother as a reader never advertised, I was always on the down low, and never, oh no. And then, somebody said to me, well, you have to let people know you're out there, Cynthia. And I was like,
yeah.
Okay, that's something that maybe I need to look at. Maybe it worked well for her at her time, and I'm taking that belief and running my life by it. And it was so comfortable, like an old shoe. I knew it well, so I never questioned it. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute, let me look at that. Why am I doing it the way I'm doing it now? Maybe that doesn't work for me, and that works. I'm happy with the way things are in my life, but I did try and, I think that often we're either in reaction to what was going on with our parents or our caregivers, or we're not questioning it. But where's the middle ground?
Yeah. And the thing is that, what was going on with our parents comes in at such a subtle and unconscious level. I think of, the word osmosis. We just absorb the energetic quality, the tone that was around in our upbringing. And we don't know any different. That is reality. And it's not until, we get maybe a little older and go through some experiences and hear some different stories about, how it's worked for other people, we go, oh, okay, so that was the energetic quality that I was raised up in. And there's all these beliefs and programming that are attached to that. Then I can get to the place of, I could make a different decision. I could make a different choice, and I can really look within and feel into my whole being and say, where am I continuing to carry that vibration, if you will, of, that family programming? And if that's no longer serving me, then I can let that go and step into something that has a quality of a different sort, that, it is more what I'm choosing to create my life from. And did that answer your question?
Sure. we're just talking here, so I'm like, okay, everything you're saying is making me think more. So I'm like, okay, make a different decision. It sounds so simple, and it is simple, but sometimes we need to work with someone to find out that there are these things that are right in front of us and we don't realize. Like I always say, you could be standing outside and there's a tree in front of you, and you see that tree every day, and so now you get in your car and you don't notice that beautiful tree is new buds on it or something. You don't even notice the tree anymore because you're on one track, and yet if someone said, oh, there's a tree there, you'd be like, yeah, but that tree is now got flowers over it. Oh, yeah. And like I'm being metaphoric, but we need each other at certain times to help point things out that are simple.
Absolutely. Because, just having someone say, I was listening to a coaching demonstration the other day, and it was this woman was working at a Gestalt level. It was just simply, can I ask you to say that again? And just, what was that you just said? because we are so often things become unconscious in our manner of speaking, or how we're processing something, or the tree that's on the side of your driveway. They're there all the time, and they don't really, we don't recognize them for what they truly are. And I know for most of us nowadays in our very active, busy lives, I think so many of us are just caught in the running to keep up, that we don't really carve out the time to have that reflection, to examine and look at, well, what is it that I am consciously creating or unconsciously creating. And so there's a real benefit to working with somebody to have that reflected back, someone to be that mirror and say, is that really where you want to go with this? It's really, and the coaching process is very much like a walking shoulder to shoulder, and partnering and looking at what it is that you want to create, and then there's this other thing that's coming in here. Is that what you want too? And just having somebody that's just going to focus in on you, your agenda, what it is that you're wanting to create, and holding you in that place of your highest potential, and continuing to encourage you from that place as well. So it's actually quite there's really, for me, there's this lovely blend of the very practical and the energetic that help us to kind of move through things at a much quicker pace than you would on your own.
Yes. I know you're passionate about this. We're going to be back with Lynne Brisdon after this short break.
Free your mind with OMTimes Radio, IOM FM.
Ascending Hearts is no ordinary dating site, but a spiritual dating site with a purpose, to link you with your soulmate. We engineer the serendipity so you can trust that you will attune with someone that has the same matching vibration as you. Ascending Hearts, the conscious dating site for the spiritually aware. Try Ascending Hearts for free, ascendinghearts.com.
Tune in to the Practical Intuitive, Mind, Body, Spirit for the Real World with me, host Robin Fritz, Mondays at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 Eastern. I'll cover personal and business intuition, animal communication, mediumship, space clearing, past life regression, shamanic insights, energy healing, soul choice, and more, all to help you tap your own intuitive and healing skills. No ifs, ands, or buts.
The average time a resume spends on an HR manager's desk is 7 seconds, and most of them are tossed aside. Now imagine if one of those resumes belonged to Yasmin, who was
living in a shelter, juggling 3 jobs. I had to be resilient. That's something that you can't teach.
We rely so much on a resume, yet it could never tell the full story of someone who
had to be independent and take initiative. And that's how I handle every project I get.
Discover new ways to develop great talent at gradsoflife.org. Brought to you by Grads of Life and the Ad Council.
Okay, we're back with Lynne Brisdon. I just want to say you can reach her website is livinginvision.com. And Lynne, do you work with people one-on-one in a particular city or online? Just tell people a little bit about that.
Sure. So I can work with people one-on-one, face-to-face. In the Pacific Northwest of the U.S., northern Washington, as well as the lower mainland of British Columbia. So, I'm pretty close to the border between U.S. and Canada on the West Coast and bounce back and forth regularly. And then I can also work with people virtually by phone or Skype or now Zoom. I've had, coaching conversations with people in Britain and Australia and all across the North American continent. We just have to work out our time zones.
Right.
And I only speak English, so I pretty much need to be with people who can speak English with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know you're really, really passionate and you love what you do, and I know you're good at it. I know you were good as a healer before then, because everyone used to talk about your classes and how great they were. Spoke very highly of you. So
Thank you,
let's
Cynthia.
just say you're welcome. It's true. But what kind of people choose to work with you?
Well, I find that the people who come to me they're in two camps. And what I'm actually finding more of lately are people who are a little bit scientific or technically inclined. They would be more of the linear thinkers, and it's a little bit more challenging for them to relate to things from a more energetic perspective. And they may come to me looking for ways to be more effective people managers, for example. I work a fair bit with people who are on a leadership track in their career, and find that their ways of connecting with people isn't getting the results that they want. So we may come in at a very, very practical level. And in fact, I've just recently become certified in something called conversational intelligence that brings the neuroscience that I was touching into a little bit earlier into understanding how we interact and ways in which we can interact that create more mutual benefit in a conversation, that we can, rather than being competitive and trying to convince and overpower one another, we can actually shift into being curious and co-creative and learn things together, which is so much more productive and creating innovation in a workplace. So people, I'm finding that people who recognize that their communication style needs work, or some people who I've done who we've done sort of the most impactful work. And the other camp is people who are probably more on the creative side, and it's really easy for them to go into the energetics of how we're creating and relating, and they really appreciate being able to have somebody to connect with for guidance and practical step by step. How do we get this done? Kind of finding a way to wade through the overwhelm of everything that can, everything that we're inundated with all the time can be quite distracting when we're trying to focus on getting something done, like starting a business or moving ahead in your career.
Yeah, or just running a business. That overwhelm has never visited my house.
Really?
No, just kidding. Overwhelm
you have a very
is
capable. You have very capable
yeah.
assistants helping you.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed, and I went, okay, stop. I'm going to meditate right now, because I was feeling it at the body level. I was like, okay, everything else can just wait. And, luckily I work for myself, and yesterday was technically my day off, but when you have your own business, your day offs are shifting and changing, I think. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to take this time, and it made such a difference. All that overwhelm energy that can sometimes, I've got to do all this stuff before I go here. And it was like, I just put it all in a box. I meditated, and it made such a difference. And I know my body thanked me because it was just feeling a little taxed. I had a very long, busy weekend. So, and then, Monday was equally busy. So,
yeah,
it's,
and
I
you're
find
absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to, I just find that people say, like I hear that from people that run their own business more and more, is the having to get a handle on all those things. And some of us naturally have the skills of organization or vision, and some of us might have like a piece of it here and a piece of it there. But at some point, it seems like as we move into our co-creating our own businesses, coaches are a necessary support system to help us be, like as you had said earlier, to it's not that you can't do it without a coach, it's that maybe you want things to go faster.
Absolutely. There's so very much to be staying on top of, and then there's all of the constant barrage of new and wonderful things that you could be doing, and it can get really tricky to sort it all out. It's either you've got a really, really strong kind of internal operating system that says this fits, this doesn't, or you need. It's really, really helpful to have somebody there beside you going, okay, does this fit? Does this not? And just to kind of, when we get to, I was on a conversation with somebody last night who recognized that there was just a chunk of work that she needs to do to maintain her professional status, and it was just a complete overwhelm. We get triggered, we hit these sort of meltdown moments, and it's so great to be able to just reach out to somebody and say, like, help. Help. What can I do here? And to just talk it through and get some perspective on it. Go, okay, no, that's not going to be so hard, but just chunk it out. And like you were just, as you shared earlier, just taking those moments to simply step back and down-regulate the stress hormones that just got kicked up, that are coursing through your entire system. Let that dissipate. It only takes a few minutes, and then go into that meditative state where you can actually start. You're supporting your body and your brain to clear out all of that stress-inducing hormone, and then as your heart rate regulates and you start to produce some of the neurotransmitters and the energetic quality that brings you to a calmer, more, I'm going to say stable, but that's not quite the right word, a relaxed state where then you can get back to being creative and seeing, well, that's where I need to focus. This is the most important thing. Because when we hit that overwhelmed state, it's really, really hard to have that clarity. I think we all end up being, when we hit overwhelm, it's really easy to get into like a attention deficit pattern. And so, having a coach to support you is really, really a great resource. Having a practice to help you kind of come back to basic state, beneficial state is also essential in my view.
And do you think, I think it's important as coaches, like you do your own inner work all the time to stay with where you are and so that you can be more present for other people. Is that important?
Absolutely essential, critical, must do, have to do. And it was one of the things that was imparted in my initial coaching and continues on is we need to walk our talk. And even, you know, when I trained as a spiritual teacher too, we must embody that which we are inviting our clients, our students to step into. Because, you know, we can say, we can do, we can act to demonstrate. However, if we're not like energetically aligned with what's coming out of our mouth and what our behaviors are demonstrating, if that congruence isn't there, it's not going to land as effectively for the person who's on the receiving end. So yeah,
right.
Just count them out, paramount.
And what about somebody whose business is going okay and everything's just okay? Do you work with people like that where everything's kind of going along, but they feel like they need to bump it up, but something's just not, but everything's like their business is happening, everything's going, and, you know, do you have clients like that as well?
Oh, for sure.
Am I asking that question?
Yeah,
Am I that question clearly?
You absolutely are. So what I'm hearing in there, Cynthia, is like, you know, you sort of hit that status quo point. It's going good, you know, we're happy. We're, you know, maybe hit a bit of a plateau. And if there's, and just in the tone of your voice, what I heard was, it's okay, but there's something else. Something's missing. So, you know, I am looking for a grander vision of what I initially, maybe I've achieved what I initially wanted to, and what else is there? And so, you know, where can I, you know, what do I want to do to reignite my passion, or, you know, create a bigger, have a bigger impact on the world, or, you know, take what I'm doing into a larger arena, for example. You know, I know for myself, one of the things that I'm looking at, you know, I've been doing mostly one-on-one coaching. I'd like to start doing more sort of group facilitation work in organizations and companies, you know, sharing this incredible body of work, that the conversational intelligence from Judith E. Glaser, you know, that has the, you know, potential to really shift and change culture within organizations. So, you know, that's, it's coach speak is, you know, playing a bigger game. So yeah, we hit those places, and working with a coach can really be a great way to give yourself the gift of the time and attention to make that shift in your business and fulfill.
Okay, so it sounds like what you're saying there is you could bring somebody could bring you on in a consultant kind of way to look at their business and their employees and see how they can make it more effective as a group as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
I just want to say, just so we forget, we've been talking with Lynne Brisdon, livinginvision, vision.com. I don't know if you have anything else you want to put out there before, so that we don't have to worry about it and get cut off. Is there anything else you wanted to share with people, or like contact?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Going onto my website is the best way to contact me. There's a contact me button there. You can also, a couple of other things. You can book a session. There's a book a session button. Which'll, you know, give you a schedule, and to have a complimentary, let's get to know each other and see how we could work together kind of a conversation. And the other thing that people can find on the site is my guide to life clarity, which is kind of a step-by-step of some of the things that you could be working with a coach on, but you could also do for yourself in a reflective way to get started on making some changes in your life. And, you know, some really basic coaching foundation tools that are there for you to access. And then that would also get you onto my newsletter, which I send out periodically. I won't send you something every week. It's more like once a quarter. And so those are some ways that you can plug into Living in Vision. and we could get to know each other a little.
And I love the quote that you sent me in your email. I'm going to share this. I love it. Illuminating the path to your greatest future. When the soul wants to experience something, she throws out an image in front of her and it steps into it. Meister Eckhart. I love that quote.
Isn't that great? I borrowed that. I was at a workshop with another coach, and she shared that one. Oh, that just fits so good with living in vision.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are that potent. We are that powerful, and we forget it all the time. I know I do. And
isn't that the truth?
It's such a, yeah, and it's just so, it's just it's a relief to come back to it. And if I can share a quick story of someone that I was working with.
Looks like we're going to get cut off here. Look, we're almost, we've had Lynne Brisdon, personal certified coach. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Lynne. And livinginvision.com. We'll see you next week. I'll be talking about living with chronic pain. Thanks, everyone.